Okay, I will go through the cinematic and I will try to explain as many frames which are relevant as possible. So in the first scene, we see LeBlanc looking at the tapestry and she's weaving all of these paths accordingly and analyzes them based on the events which happened in the past and some of the events which are happening right now. So LeBlanc moves the tapestry to create certain images. For example, this time she created a wolf, or what looks like a wolf, with a Medarda family crest on its forehead. Of course, this wolf is representative of the Medarda family, and obviously Mel. Mel is the new leader of the Medarda family, and we know Ambessa's final words are, "You are the wolf." Speaking of Mel, she finally arrives in Noxus, and more specifically, the same location where Ambessa was in that music video whenever she was laying down on the battlefield surrounded by all of those Noxian corpses while also being pregnant with Mel. That's when she was chosen by the wolf, and we know that this location is the ancestral home of the Medardas. That information is revealed in the Ambessa biography. The name of that place is Rockrund and can be found very close to Piltover. One thing that was pointed out on Twitter, I don't remember by whom, but the idea is that right now Mel doesn't have any makeup. The last time we've seen her going with the Noxian fleet, we see her wearing makeup. We continue seeing the tapestry and what looks like something that represents Katarina. And why do I say that? It's because this could very well be a dagger or the beginning of a dagger, and then of course the very next scene is Katarina arriving at the Silken Dance. You might be thinking to yourself, why do I say that name? How do I know the name? Pretty much a skin line will be released called The Mask of the Black Rose, and all of those skins have a description which describes the invitation they received to the Silken Dance. Katarina is one of those people who will receive a skin, however, she was sent there on a mission to assassinate someone. The description doesn't say who sent her on this mission, however, Elise's description states that there is a new Grand General, and in the Katarina comic book, it is stated that for 7 years there are rebellions and people who do not want to abide by the new rule and the new leadership. And Swain, during this time, sends Katarina on various missions to kill targets who would oppose his rule. Another aspect of this is that she is being told to wear Noxian attire, which means that it could be that all the different colors you will see in the cinematic for the robes are probably representative of the regions all of these people are from. We know that they are inviting multiple people from multiple regions, for example Renata Glask or Ezreal, who are from Piltover. After that we see her going through the tapestry again, and the tapestry is being shown to have this smoky look, this shadowy look, and what's so interesting about all of this is that right here we will see her fingers being shadowy, but her entire body, the rest of the body, is her normal body. Something which is completely different or opposite in Arcane, where we can see only her fingers being normal while the rest of the body is shadowy. So she creates something to represent Darius, because in the upcoming scene we can see him arriving in Freljord, or rather preparing to have this 1v1 against Trundle, and you can see his banners, and whatever she drew in that smoke looks very similar to that. Now some people pointed out that Darius looks slimmer and younger, and that's the case because this is supposed to take place in the past. This is something which was confirmed to be something they went for by one of the developers on Reddit. Besides that, what we can get from this fight scene is that Darius tries to obtain free passage up the mountain. As I said, he will have to fight Trundle, who is the king of the trolls. We can also see Mel traveling the lands of Noxus and arriving at this Noxtora. Yes, the name of this structure is Noxtora, and it means gateway to Noxus. These structures can be seen on the roads leading to the capital, and they are built in newly conquered land so that people who see them will know who owns the land. So Mel is going to examine the structure, and it's really cool how they are emphasizing on the rows while Mel is losing focus. LeBlanc continues looking at the tapestry, and I believe she may be looking at something that represents the Silken Dance, the masquerade, the event I mentioned, because the next scene is exactly that. Earlier I mentioned that these people would wear a different looking robe based on the region they are from. I still believe that, however I'm not excluding other ideas. What you need to consider is the color of the robe and of course the mask they are wearing. And you can spot the following colors: red, black, purple and blue. Now I believe black is reserved to the people who are part of the Black Rose. The people who wear a red one, they have unique looking masks, most of them at least, and that's based on culture, while everyone else wears a much more normal looking mask. I did not show Elise yet because I first want to explain this moment. It is of course LeBlanc again, adding some more stuff to the tapestry, and as I stated earlier, this right here represents Katarina, because you can go back in the cinematic and see how she is added to the tapestry, right about here. And now in this moment, in the cinematic, she is being surrounded by what looks like, well, I believe this represents Elise. Now let's talk about this scene. Elise defending the target, who's way too chill about everything. I mean, maybe he's on drugs or something, or maybe he is simply a clone sent there by LeBlanc. Either way, another thing you can notice is that she was pretending to be a mask on the wall before Katarina decided to attack her target, and that can be easily spotted in the moments whenever Katarina is looking at the target and whenever she's making her final strike right about here. Now an interesting fact about Elise is that she wasn't always a spider lady, a hybrid. She was at one point a normal human who traveled to the Shadow Isles to get the resources or rather artifacts for the Pale Lady because she wanted her favor. The Pale Lady is LeBlanc. While there, she encountered the spider god Vilma, who transformed her in this, and to maintain her youth, she goes to the Shadow Isles with some of her targets to give to the spider god, while also gathering artifacts for LeBlanc. The fight between Darius and Trundle continues, and what you need to understand is that Trundle is an Iceborn who can wield true ice, because yes, this club is made of true ice. True ice is ice that can never melt. It is found in the deepest depths of Freljord, and this one was given to him by an ice witch. An ice witch with a name, but I'm not gonna get into that. The name of the weapon is Bone Shiver, and you can see exactly what happens when someone tries to touch true ice, even when it happens indirectly. The only reason why Darius is able to pick up the weapon briefly to win the fight is because he wears a glove and because, well, he is built different. You can even see this moment whenever he picks up the weapon, his veins are being affected by the true ice. Now, I would say the fight scene itself is very believable. It is very easy to understand that a troll is much stronger than a normal human. And also, after he picked up Bone Shiver, he became untouchable to the rest of the trolls. Of course, he would be a bit complacent and he would underestimate Darius in this instance. That's why you can see him being a bit slower in certain moments of the fight. He doesn't want it to end so easily. He wants to simply tear his head out of the body. That's the window for Darius to strike and win the fight. So after that amazing fight scene, we go back to Mel, who is analyzing the Noxtora, the structure I talked about earlier. That's a card in Legends of Frontera, by the way. And she will have some sort of visualization of herself going to the capital while fighting the forces of the Black Rose. Now I will talk about the fight scene between Elise and Katarina. The target is of course extremely chill. I would be very surprised if that's not simply a clone. But who knows, the idea is that we have to talk about the fight scene. So right here, Katarina throws one of her daggers up in the air. You can see it going up, and then she moves her hand back down without the dagger, because as I said, it is being thrown in the air while she continues to fight these little spiders with the dagger available. And right here, she throws one of the spiders on the ground, and the spider will continue attacking her, and in this moment, she will use some shadow daggers to kill the spider while her dagger falls down back in her hand. Now we got to a very important moment in the cinematic. Let's first analyze the battlefield. We should look at the movements of the target, and well, we will see, and Katarina also noticed, the pathing of the target. That's why she planted her dagger on the ground over here. And then Katarina is going to be attacked by Elise, only for her to teleport to her dagger. The idea is that if the Katarina comic book is canon and she teleported to the dagger, it means that this is taking place 7 years after Swain became Grand General. It is also around the same time when Katarina receives her teleportation powers through a ritual called hemomancy or blood magic. It is also consistent with the idea that an invitation is being sent to Renata Glask, who right now is not a big deal in a zone. However, in the invitation it seems like she's a big player. The other idea is that if the comic book is not canon, it means that this is taking place sometimes after Swain becomes Grand General, or at least it seems like it. And of course, this is the moment when she fulfills her mission. As I stated earlier, Mel visualizes herself fighting against the forces of the Black Rose on her way to the capital, and what you are seeing right here is the Grey Legion. These are undead soldiers made through hemomancy, the sort of blood magic I mentioned earlier, and these are made by people who are underneath Vladimir, the guy who you will see at the end of the cinematic. Then we have this beautiful shot of Katarina looking up at Elise, who decided to go full out and transform herself in this giant spider because, well, she failed in protecting the target. Now for yet another major moment in the cinematic. If the Darius comic book is canon, then we have an idea of when this is taking place. If it's not canon, what you need to understand is the following. He already has the scar over his eye, it's not as pronounced as what you can see in other cinematics, and he already has the white streak of hair. He is in Freljord on what looks like the first campaign in Freljord, and he was sent there as the Hand of Noxus by Boram Darkwill. Now let's talk about one of his storylines from League of Legends. Of course the trolls, some of them kneel out of respect for him, right? And as I said, one of his storylines from League of Legends mentions how in the first campaign, Darius builds a road up a mountain. He is there in a follow-up campaign, and one of the soldiers mentions all of that. Okay, now I want to include the comic as well, but I want to first preface everything by saying that at one point in the campaign in Freljord, Darius returns home because he wants to consolidate his army, and that's when he finds out that Swain took over Noxus and Darkwill is no more. In the comic book, we have multiple years which are dropped. 10 years ago is the last time when Darius went home, and he says that while looking at the capital. The capital is right then taken over by the rebels. 9 years ago is the moment when he was fighting against the Ionians. What happened 10 years ago and what happened 9 years ago? Well, 9 years ago he is name dropped as the Hand of Noxus while in Ionia, so it fits right that he was named the Hand of Noxus 10 years ago, and that's why it is the last time he went home to the capital, because he was named the Hand of Noxus, and soon after he was sent to fight in Freljord. He was sent there by Darkwill. At one point during the campaign in Freljord, he is called to fight against the Ionians. He is the Hand of Noxus, so of course he would do that. Other generals could take his place in Freljord. One of them is name dropped in the comic, Korlek is his name. And then we have another year which is dropped. 5 years ago is the last time when he met Quileta. Quileta is his first love. So if he met her 5 years ago, it means that she wasn't a rebel yet, she wasn't really against the Empire. I'm saying that because, as I mentioned in the beginning, rebels took over the capital who are led by Quileta. Year 0 is the moment where he goes to take over the capital because he wants to remove the rebels, and well, he is at this point most likely fighting for Swain. And because we can consider that the rebels held the capital for some time, we can also assume they wouldn't be allowed to hold it much longer or for too long. And because in the Katarina comic we know that rebellions still happen 7 years after the fall of Darkwill, then it means if we add that together with the 10 years since Darius was last home, we have 17 years. But we can also count the idea that the rebels held the capital for some time, so let's say 15 or around 15 years has passed since this moment in the cinematic. Now, of course, take everything with a grain of salt. I do not believe that I have all the answers or that I know everything or that I'm always right, so you can tell me your own opinions in the comment section. I still believe this is a good assumption, but we'll see what happens in the future. Then we get an end to Mel's dream where she's extremely powerful. Maybe she will get to be that powerful, but we'll see what happens and her journey in the upcoming shows. And after that we see the capital. The final conversation of the cinematic happens between Vladimir and LeBlanc. Vladimir and LeBlanc are founding members of the Black Rose. Vladimir is the one who works with blood magic and he gained his power from the Darkin. Darkin are ascended beings who went mad because of the blood magic and the void. And then LeBlanc is this powerful mage who you can see in Arcane as well. She has the power to use clones all over the world. Vladimir initially talks about focusing their attention on Mel, while LeBlanc wants to focus their attention elsewhere. The final piece of this conversation is this right here. Now, I have seen multiple ideas floating around the internet, for example, this being related to the Darkin are trapped within weapons, or it could be related to the events which are going to happen in the game. A Riot developer mentioned that we will learn more about it this year, and he mentioned also that these are supposed to tease things that will happen in the game. Soon we will get a comic book related to the Atakan, so I believe this is related to that monster which will be added to League of Legends. Finally, that's all I wanted to say for today. Thanks for watching and, well, subscribe to the channel.